Hi guys, Robert Rasp Guitars. We are going to carve a neck today, and so I wanted to go through my process and show you what I do here. Let's see. Let's start it over. You can keep yours. I guess I can edit it out, but this is leaning just ever so slightly. Okay. All right.
I just edit mine.
Okay. Come stand right over here. Okay. Hi guys, Robert Rasp Guitars. I'm here with my niece Jenna and her little baby growing in the little tummy.
I don't know
there.
if you can see. Not that it's
Anyway,
yet.
she's at the point where we're ready to carve her neck. We're going to do it by hand, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to actually show you guys how to do it, or at least how we do it. Okay, and then you might want to do it different because of that, but it's up to you. Okay, so first off, this fixture here is basically a design of Eric Schaefer from Eric Schaefer Guitars. He calls it the Viking ship for obvious reasons.
Makes sense.
So it works out pretty well. This is what I've used for every neck I've done, and it works out great. So I've cut a little block that fits around my dovetail, and I can clamp it on with a single clamp on this side. Just get it nice and locked in. I've got a wedge here that we'll go ahead and put in, and then just a quick clamp that I use on this side. I've had different ways of doing this. This seems to work just super easy.
I have that in there for me.
You're fine. Yep, that works out just great. So that's locked in there nice and well, and now we can carve a neck. So the way I do this, I break it down into 3 separate processes or sections. I'm going to work on kind of the barrel of the neck. I'm going to work on the volute, and we're going to work on the heel. And I always start with the barrel. Now the very first thing, you can see I started, and then we thought, hey, let's do a video. So ignore that. Pretend it's not done yet. But I make a mark. I find my first fret slot, and I make a mark all the way around because I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go to number 10, and I'm going to make a mark all the way around it there. Okay. Then I'm going to take my Shinto Rasp. Awesome tool. You can get them for about 25 bucks on Amazon. Okay, and use the coarse side, and I'm just going to start rounding that first fret position and getting it kind of the basic round, basic shape. Okay, so we'll come in. We'll probably speed some of these sections up, and this particular neck blank is a little thicker than normal, so we're gonna have to take some of the thickness down, but it goes quick, so I'm not gonna
Yeah, that thing cuts pretty fast.
Yeah, it really does. But what I want to do is I want to get it. I would love to anchor this thing to the ground, by the way, because it's a pain in the butt when you're working on it and it's sliding around. Okay, and I'm not trying to make a final shape here. I'm just trying to get really, really close to the vicinity of where I want to be. Okay, that's it. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the 10th fret. Okay.
And you just straddle the line?
I'm just straddling, and I'm not on one side. I'm just right over the middle. This is just, like I said, I'm not final shape. I just want to get it close to the to where it's going to be. And there's a little bit of a taper in thickness from one end to the other, so it helps to have your measurements and kind of where you want to be. Grab the calipers, and that's one of the benefits of this design of this fixture. Is you've got all this open space. You can actually get calipers in here and see where you're at. I'm not going to say numbers because every guitar is going to be different, and for your hands you're going to want them a certain neck profile, thickness, But so you got to figure out what your numbers are for you. And will you grab my block plane and put it over there, and the little squirrel plane, the green one.
Both these guys?
Yep. Oh, that's the old one. Get the newer one.
Where?
It should be right over there with it.
Oh,
Okay, so pretty quick work of that. Now I think you can buy these templates, but this is,
ones you've made.
I made this one, yeah. And I've got the 1st, 6th, and the 10th frets on here. Truth be told, I never use the 6th. I use 1 and 10. And I can put that on there and get an idea how close I am to where that 1st fret is. And then I can come over here on the 10th and I can kind of get a pretty good idea of how close I am to that shape, right? And so I know I'm going to need a little bit more off of these little edges. And again, I'm not looking for final perfection here. I just want to get pretty close to the rough shape to start. Okay, once I have those in the general area, then there's many ways to kind of thin that barrel down or start removing material. People use draw knives, spoke shaves, all kinds of things, chisels. I mean, whatever you want to use that's going to work for you. This just goes super quick for me. So I can take my block plane and just start removing material. And there is something really fun about getting these curls, right?
Yeah.
So.
I was gonna say, they're very pretty.
Yep. So I can just start taking some of that material off from the 10th to the 1st. This actually probably should cut a little bit more, just because I think I had it dialed back for some harder wood earlier. Yeah, it does. Okay. You know, on different size planes, and like I said, you kind of have to find what works for you. Okay, the little squirrel plane. Daisy Tempest was the one that named the squirrel planes. At least that's where I heard it first. It was from her. And she was talking about her squirrel plane, and I'm like, what does that mean? And then she set it down and took a picture. It looks like a little squirrel tail. I'm like, I love that. So anyway, thank you, Daisy, if you ever see this. But this is my squirrel plane. Once I get kind of the basic shape, well, I'm going to go ahead and get the other side here too, because been focusing on this side, and I've got kind of my basic barrel shape right now, right?
Are you, Jim?
Yep. So now I'll come back on this side, and we'll start shaping this side. By the way, while I'm doing this, I'll tell a quick story. First 2 guitars I built, I used pre-carved necks. Neck carving intimidated the crap out of me. I was really nervous to do, because I viewed that as something more of artwork, like drawing, right? Wood turning is kind of the same way. You have to have an eye for it, right? Yeah. And so it was intimidating. And so the very first neck I did was on guitar number 3, and I get the thing. I built this fixture, and I get it mounted in here, and even though I was nervous, I was thinking, I wonder how this will be. So I started doing it, and within a very short period of time, I had the basic shape. I'm like, oh, that was way easier than I expected. So a lot of people are really intimidated by the neck carve. I'm going to tell you, we make it out in our heads much bigger than it is. It's really not a difficult thing to do.
I mean, it's going a lot faster than I would have thought beforehand.
Sure, yeah.
Since I've never watched this process.
Okay, let's grab the little squirrel.
From where we started to even where we're at now, like that's...
Yeah, I like to get the squirrel plane in here and just kind of get these little, because I can't get all the way off to the edges, so it kind of scoops it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I can get these kind of edges over here with the squirrel plane. Again, spoke shaves, draw knives, whatever you feel like you need to use, you just got to remove the wood, and if you've got whatever's the most comfortable to you. Okay, now I'm not worried about it being perfect either. I want this to be nice straight lines from 1st to 10th, obviously.
Yeah.
But we can fine tune everything as we go.
Sure.
Okay, so I just want to get it close and make sure that we're kind of in the rough area.
And right now, you're not taking it all the way down to the
where
binding of the fretboard, really.
No, I want to leave a little bit of that. I'm just getting, again, really close to the rough shape, and then we're going to fine tune it with some other tools.
Gotcha.
Okay, and that's actually looking like a good point to switch over.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's starting to look like a neck already.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my Dragon Rasp. They sell these at StuMac. These particular ones I got off of Amazon, and they work surprisingly well, so I've never felt the need to go to a more expensive one. I am a little bit of a tool snob. Okay. I'm not a big fan of some of the import tools.
Sure.
But in this case I got lucky. These work really well. So anyway, now I'm going to take it, and I can start to kind of get my final shape. This is really super aggressive. Okay, so it's going to take material off. I don't want to use this for finish, obviously, but I can get really close to my finished final shape, size, dimensions, all that stuff, and then I can start sanding and cleaning everything up from there. But now I can really start to get some final shape in here with this. With this.
More of the curvature.
Yeah, yep. Rounding everything over, smoothing everything out, get some of those faceted edges that we had on there from the planes off, and you can kind of see that we're already, now we're really starting to take shape of a neck. Now there's a few other tools that we'll use. I'm going to flip over here. And just, you kind of move your position around the neck so that you're in the most comfortable position to attack the area that you're working at.
Well, and it seems like you don't keep pressure in one spot for very long at all.
No, and you don't want to focus on any one spot. I want to blend and flow and just kind of move through it this way a little bit. Okay, so we've got a rough thing. I've got a couple of spots from the Shinto Rasp that are still going to need to come down, but I'm not going to worry so much about this because I still have to shape my heel and my volute, and then I can blend everything together. Okay.
So do you come and do those first before you come back and fine tune?
Yes, because I don't necessarily want to fine tune this and then have, when I start my blend from this, mess this up or something like that. So I'm roughing everything first, then I can fine tune it all together, okay? And so as I'm coming in off of my heel, then that's, I'm gonna end up hitting the barrel a little bit. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but anyway. Okay, so I feel like we got a pretty good handle on the neck. It's way thicker than it needs to be right now, but it's again a starting point, and we'll do the fine tuning as we go. Okay. Now you can also just kind of keep an eye on where you're at with stuff.
Dang.
I'm high still, you can see.
Yeah, but it's.
But now I'm really close to what I want to be, right? And right in here, I'm still close, but you can see I've got.
It gives you a nice guide.
It does, and so I can have a little bit here that I got to take off, right? I can probably blend some of this. Will you grab the card scraper, the thicker one? And then maybe the square too. The wooden square's over on the other bench.
Okay.
It's by my guitar. It's in the,
Oh, on the table, the workbench over here. Okay.
Oh. These guys?
Yeah. Yep. That's the one I'm looking for. Bring it on over. And that's good enough. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Now, this will be more fine tuning rather than kind of the rough stage that we're at. But you can take straight edges that are short enough to fit within that space, and you can kind of look across here and look for light underneath it. And so,
Just mess around.
so look under there and see if you see any light under there.
Yeah. A
Okay.
little bit.
A little
Not-
bit, you know, but a lot
not
of
much.
times that actually looks pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I might have a high spot here.
Right.
And
It was
rocks.
just mostly right here, but
And
the
that's
rest-
going to get
this
blended,
whole
so
thing,
we're nice and straight, so that's
Yeah.
good. So use tools like that to kind of keep yourself, and not just here, but kind of along different tangents, you know, so you can really focus in and get that level and flat, straight, all that stuff. Okay, now there's a couple of other tools. The first time the first few necks I did them all with drag and rasp and other tools. I kind of cheat a little bit. Will you grab the drill and the this right here? This is my rolling pin sander. This is from Allied Luthery. This thing is amazing. It's great for sides and prepping your sides for binding or cleaning up your sides after binding. But I use this a lot on neck carving as well because I can really shape the heel and I can remove material pretty quickly. Now, if you're going to use this, be really, really careful because it is aggressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And yeah, you
It
can
scares me.
kind of cut a little divot in there or something.
Okay.
But I will also say, this is a good point. Neck carving is pretty forgiving. So if you end up going a little too far here or a little too far there, I mean, within reason, you're gonna be okay. I mean, you can blend it all out, and I was surprised. I mean, I've had a couple necks that ended up a little thinner than I had planned on originally, but it is forgiving. You know, you're not.
So I don't need to have a heart attack every.
Yes,
step of the
no,
way.
you just kind of just take it easy and go. But anyway, you can use this thing to kind of really remove a lot of material. You see the sawdust flying off of there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another note about, I'm probably not going to use that for the whole thing, but another note about when I carve a neck, this is just my process, it's different for everybody. I've got the neck to a certain stage. I've already got the body joint done, my neck, my dovetail. I've glued the head plate, bound it. I've glued the fretboard on, and I've glued my heel cap on. And those become my stop limits. So I'm carving my heel to the heel cap. I'm not carving the neck and gluing it on, if that makes sense. And so now as I'm carving this heel, now I'm transitioning to the heel, I'm going to just remove everything that's not supposed to be there. Okay, and I'm making the pregnant woman go and get all my tools, and so what a jerk, huh?
No, I go fine.
Need where's my good chisel?
The wooden ones?
There it is.
He's very nice to me. He doesn't.
Kind of, huh?
Well,
Except for when I'm
other than
teasing.
the heart attacks, yeah.
We have fun, that's for sure.
We
So
do.
I'll use a Japanese saw sometimes if my heel is too wide, and I'll remove material this way if I need to. Some kind of flush saw. Sometimes I'll use chisels. Actually, you need it in your hair. Okay, there you go.
Thanks.
And I'll use chisels too, and I can remove a lot of material with a good sharp
What we
chisel.
really need to do is we need to make you like a wig out of these
To
little
replace
curly
the
cues.
lost hair and my baldness, you know? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying because they look like ringlets.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
Sheesh.
So I can come in and I can remove a lot of material with a good sharp chisel as well. And I can kind of get these corners roughed down, you know. And I find different ways and, you know, what works, what doesn't, you know. But, I mean, I do spend a lot of time using my rolling pin sander. If you're gonna use your rolling pin sander, don't take it to final with this because you'll have dips and things like that. Okay, so you just wanna get it close to where you want it to be. Okay, and that's about as close as I wanna go with that. And if you look at that, Jenna, you can kind of see I'm starting to get that.
Yeah.
I do just a little bit of an inward arc on that. Okay. It does. It moves things along pretty quickly. Everybody's heel's a different shape too. Most of them are those little triangle shapes, you know. It really doesn't matter what shape it is. You just gotta, you know, but this is, I have that wide heel. And so my process might be slightly different than yours. But now, I have a little bit of an arc on the top of my heel cap. So I want to bring that in here. And I just want to get it like close to that shape. And then we can start blending everything. Okay, get it closed, and then I go back to my Dragon Rasps, and I can really take off a lot of material here. And I'm using the half round side.
But you were using the flat side on this.
On here I was using the flat. I'm using the half round here so that as I come into the barrel I'm not hitting it and gouging it, right? And so now I'm just removing what part of the neck is not supposed to be there. And there's still a lot of wood that needs to go. But you can see I'm starting to take shape.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come back in here and get that closer. Yeah, this makes the dust go quick. Really, you probably should have a mask for this part. Sorry, safety police. I'll have one.
So I just step back more for now.
Yeah, yeah. This thing doesn't put the fine powder off, so it's not really as bad. See how now I'm starting to kind of get that shape blended into that barrel now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and so
It's starting to look more like a
it
unit.
flows, yeah, yeah, from one transitions from one to the other. Right. Now I want that neck to be super comfortable, so we're going to take kind of a bit of material off of this little area here. for your thumb and, you know.
How hard is it to get the two sides even?
It's not. What I'm going to do for that is I'm going to look straight down,
Oh,
and I can see this has more material here than it does here.
gotcha.
And just by looking straight down, I can compare the two really, really easily. Okay? And if you have to, depending on your work, you know, how tight the space you're trying to get into, sometimes the smaller Dragon Rasp works a little better. Sometimes on the heel it's like the right choice. And then drop the Dragon Rasp on your foot. That always is awesome. It like feels good. It kind of gets the creativity going. Okay, now I'm starting to kind of close in on my shape, at least roughly, on this heel. It's hot in this shop right now. I'm sweating over here. Anyway, now I've got quite a bit I've got to take off here, which means that my arc is going to change a little bit too. I still have a lot of material to remove right here. But again, I'm getting close.
So do you fine tune that with the Dragon Rasp, or do you go even finer than that?
Well, I'll get it really close and right up to it, and then I'll use sandpaper and, you know, sometimes files and stuff like that. But I'll get it really close with the Dragon Rasp.
Seems like you have to be a little more
Now,
delicate.
Yeah, you do. And as I'm getting up near this binding of this heel cap, I don't want to run into that.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing you want to be careful of. So I'm holding this thing kind of on an edge, and I'm not getting it this way because I can't see where it would go up, but I can see the edge. So I'm kind of tilting it up, so I'm just bringing the corner of it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that you can kind of sneak up on it.
Yeah, I can sneak up on it and not hit the binding. I got a lot of material to remove down in here still, especially because as this comes back to the binding, then that transition changes, you know.
I'm trying to like keep this. Might not be a bad idea to mount this at some point.
Yeah, I need to bolt it to the floor. I just haven't had the time to do it. And this stand is okay, but it doesn't have like anywhere to do it, so I'm gonna have to either weld something or bolt something. It's gonna be weird. Okay, now I'm getting really, really close to that binding.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see I've got some like weirdness going on right in here. That can all be smoothed out after I get this like really close.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Because you have more of an anchor there than you do here,
What do you mean?
right? Like you have the heel cap as an anchor here.
Oh
so
yeah,
you
that's like
wanna-
my stop limit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
whereas-
wanna.
You don't necessarily have to come mess with that
Yeah.
because it matters less.
Yes. Right. I can make this flow, and this has to be a fixed point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, there's an angle. I put a 5-degree angle on there just because of the back of the guitar. I want it to kind of be parallel to
Yeah.
on the angle of the heel cap. That means the binding is kind of this way, right?
So you have to.
So I have to kind of bring it up and either bring it back out or take it, the binding down a little bit to be flat. And that's usually what I end up doing, but just ever so slightly. But you have to be aware of that because you don't want to end up with like a
That makes sense.
crease or a kink in there.
Thought about that. I mean, I thought about it on the back, but not on the top there.
Okay, and now that I'm kind of getting it to the level, now I'm really focusing on that radius again and trying to get that way. Really trying to make that flow and be the right radius. Okay. And then rolling it on both sides equally.
Yeah.
And now it's really coming together. Now I went with my flat side here.
Just as you're sneaking up on it?
As I'm sneaking up and I'm getting that edge right in under the binding but not touching the binding. I really want to get it close, but I don't want to touch the binding. I'm coming back and forth a little bit. This thing is going to leave some pretty deep scratches, this Dragon Rasp. So that's about as far as I want to go up to the binding. Okay, because then I can use some sandpaper and some things like that to bring it back in. Yeah. Okay, so now that I've got it pretty close.
Do you sand it down, was it 220 like we did on the head?
I take it only to 220 because I use a finisher that specs out that I send everything to him, sand it to 220. If I go further, he'll send it back to 220 for the specific finish that he uses.
Oh.
So 220 is all I need.
Does it just accept the finish better? At that?
Yeah, for that particular finish, yeah.
Cool, I didn't know.
Yeah. So now I'm just working on, again, transitioning, flowing, you know, making sure that everything lines up. I personally like to have a nice kind of sharp line. It's not perfect right now. It kind of does this a little bit, but we're going to clean that up. I like to have a nice sharp line all the way down to about here, and then it blends in and just makes it smoother for getting your hands in there, up on the higher frets and stuff. So blend the line there, and here I'm going to define it. Okay, and again I'm going to look down on it. I want to make sure we're where we want to be, symmetrical and everything like that. Okay. Sometimes you end up with getting this thing perfect on this way, but then you've got to roll them and blend them. Okay. Now that I've got that really close to my final shape, now I can come in here and blend the neck to the heel and make sure everything is nice and smooth, flat, no dips, gaps, holes, you know. And when you're doing this, keep in mind, I'm digging down here. That means I'm going to have kind of a, so I'm going to have to take it all the way out, right, eventually.
Right.
Which I know that, and I expect it. But now you can kind of see the neck really taking shape.
And then you can kind of work that back.
Yep.
Cool. So do you, start working it back now, or do you come work on the volute?
Yeah, the volute.
First, and then kind of meet.
Yep, yep.
I don't know.
So I get it pretty close when I'm doing this, but keep in mind, again, all of this will need some fine tuning. Like as you run your hands on there,
You're gonna feel.
you'll feel things that you can't see. Okay,
Right.
so as I'm pushing my hands on here, and it's easier once you sand it, at least with the rough sanding, like an 80 grit, then you'll really start to feel the little inconsistencies, and you might feel like something that's not perfectly round. It's almost got like a little hip to it, or something along here, and so you need to focus a little bit more there. You know, I mean, you'll
Right.
feel things you can't see.
Which
And
is
so-
important on the neck, since that's where
Oh,
you're.
absolutely. It's got to feel
Yeah.
right. It's got
It's
to look
all-
right, but it's got to feel right more important
Yeah.
than anything.
A lot
So,
of the other stuff.
so I'll get it close, and every time I transition or do anything, I'm always trying to aim at narrowing my target to the bullseye, to the final result. Okay. Now my volute. Now we'll go ahead and transfer over to this, because it's time to work on that now, because we got that basic.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so crazy how quickly it all comes together.
Yeah, it doesn't take that long. Now I'm going to take this. I'm just going to kind of draw a half circle. I'm just
What's
curious.
that
I've
for
never done
reference?
this. I want to see. Hey, that 10th fret gives me a perfect new discovery right now, right here.
History
Okay.
in the making.
Okay, all this is for is to give me a little bit of again a target to aim toward. I'm going to rough it, and this is the volute. Now you can take this thing and come straight all the way up and then right into the neck, and I've done guitar necks like that. A volute gives you a little extra thickness, and you have it. You have extra thickness here. It's thicker than it needs to be. So if I the old Martin guitars had well, and some of the new ones do too, I think, have a diamond shape volute right here.
Interesting.
That adds strength to the headstock. With all the tension that you're pulling on the strings, you know, you see a lot of broken headstocks out there, right? That adds strength. That volute gives you a little bit more
Just
meat.
that it keeps, some of that.
And
material
so
there.
I really
I know,
like
it's
that
cool.
little half circle. It just is a really classy
Yeah.
looking thing. So now that I've kind of drawn a half circle, I can start just removing all that. And I'm on my round edge, and I can just start removing this back to my neck,
Yeah,
right? And the thing I want to be careful of
just keeping that.
is that line. I don't want to be cutting above it or beyond it.
Right.
Right? And so I can kind of come in and get close to it.
How much of like a curve do you put on it? Is it just a slight?
Personally,
Or is it-
yeah, well, yeah, just a real slight curve. You know, you don't want it so slight that it's ramping up. You know, you want the neck to feel good all the way up the neck, so you can play on the first fret without it swinging out,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, just a nice, and enough to sand it. You gotta sand it once you get it in there, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that answered your question. I'll
Yeah, it
pretend
did. It did. No,
Okay.
it did.
Okay, but you can see right here, I mean, I'm already starting to get that blended
Yeah.
in. And this little half circle, it really almost kind of appears. It's like I didn't have to draw that in all reality. As I'm blending these two halves,
It just
these
happens.
two edges, it kind of almost naturally just starts to flow into there.
Yeah.
And that's the first one I ever did. I know other people have done this. It's not my invention by any stretch of the imagination. But the first time I did one of these, I was planning on doing a regular neck, and as I was carving these two sides and blending them in, this half circle kind of appeared, and I went, oh, that's cool. And I just went with it, and it was easy, and it you know,
Yeah.
so that's
it
what I ended up doing.
flows naturally.
Yes.
You're not having to force it. That's nice.
Yeah. You know you're onto something when it just kind of comes natural, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to take it flat here. And I don't want to go straight flat, but I'm just going to kind of define my line a little bit with the flat edge. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, where I'm kind of just using the edge of this thing just to get it in close to my line. And just define it. That's all I want to do. And so now I can take it from that defined line and again bring it in to the barrel of the neck. Can you see that starting to take shape?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to also tell you this part's a little bit more
Delicate?
Yeah, be careful
Yeah.
if you're going to use this. But I do use this a lot of times to kind of get my volute.
Wow.
Because it'll get me really good in there. But you've got to exercise some serious control.
Well, and you have to have.
Sorry. Suck on that.
You have to have like the space at the top of the neck too,
Yes.
so that you don't create much of a divot, right?
Right. But by rolling it back and forth like this, it kind of starts to form that. Pretty soon you'll have as much dust on you as I do. And I can blend it as I go. But you can see it kind of starting to take shape there. And I actually do like to use this thing for that reason.
Yeah. So your dust you're kicking up.
Yep.
Goodness.
Okay, now I've got another part of this that I got to address. I have a flat head plate. By the way, it's a little too thick. We're going to have to take it over to the drill press and use a safety planer and thickness it on the back. It's not a big deal. But then we've got another part from when we glued the scarf joint on, where it just goes, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a hard angle, right? And so we're going to have to address that as well. Use this old chisel to remove that glue. We've got a little bit of glue on here. That was from the binding. Just a hard piece of CA glue. Okay. That one needs to be sharpened pretty desperately. And so what I'll do with this
Oh, you run that out too?
is I'll put a curve in it, but you got to be careful because right here is the hardest one and the one that is the most likely to cause an issue. Okay.
Okay.
Because you're trying to put a round into the back of the head plate,
Yeah.
and
There's
this line right here where it wants to settle in, but on this side of the line, if you hit this head plate, then you're reducing your thickness, and you could really put a little divot. So I have one time I did that too much, and then I had to put a back strip on a back plate to build my thickness back up.
Gotcha.
So be careful and try to keep it on this side of that joint. Of that.
Luckily, we have a little space to work with. But
Yeah, you got a
you
little
don't
bit
wanna-
to, and we're gonna have to retouch this up too, because once I thickness this, then we're gonna have to blend that. But it's gonna get us close enough. And I'm really not trying to do a final here right now. I'm just trying to show you the process in which I do a neck.
So would you come out, like, do you end up coming out to this line?
Yes, I
Or-
want that to be a nice sharp line all the way around.
I wasn't sure if you
Okay.
switch tools to.
Yeah,
or if you use
I'm
that
gonna come
rather
up
than-
here and I'm really gonna try to keep it flat, you know.
Yeah.
Pull it up every once in a while. I'm putting a little bit too much pressure on this side right now. So I've got to,
Yeah.
you know, you just have to pay attention closely to what you're doing, right? And that's
Yeah.
almost all of it right there.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that already looks way better.
Yeah, it's got some radius to it. Okay. And then let's get this just a little bit deeper. And of course this is going to need some more love and attention. But once we have that, then I can come in and blend the last transition point and take that down to where it needs to be. And because I left it thick and high compared to where it needs to be, I've got lots of forgiveness
Yeah.
or room to really shape this and get it perfected, you know?
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to really
Not
start
stuck.
to, yeah. And I've got this nice and smooth in here. You know, I think
Yeah,
I want
you
a
got
tiny
this.
bit more radius than that, so I can use kind of the round, but the tip of this round dragon file to kind of add a little bit more radius in here without going up and over that line. Okay. And then get that nice and close. And then, once we get that really where we want it, we're going to go to the sanding blocks. Will you grab the sanding sponges? All three of them. You've got the big one and the two small ones.
Do you want the two different?
Yes, yes, please. Okay. Okay, I want this one and these two.
Okay.
Okay.
Not the bottom.
I love these. These are just little sanding block sponges, and these smaller ones. And basically, I work with 80, and you know,
It's
you can
nice
go
that
in between,
just-
but I'll take it to 220. But these little sanding sponges, I can really come in here and start to get those deep scratches out with the 80 and really clean it up. And then with these smaller ones, I've got one with 80 and I got one with 220.
Yeah. I was gonna say how you get that.
And now I can kind of get in here and really clean these areas up and use this on the heel. And a lot of times I'll be doing this with the 80, and then once I start sanding, it'll kind of reveal what you missed. Like I'll sand that out, and then I'll notice something
Different spot.
high or low or something like that, and then I can come in and address it, or even go back to the dragon rasp.
It looks pretty dang good.
It's not perfect. I mean, we still have quite a ways to go with all the fine tuning and stuff.
Yeah.
And see, like right here, I've got a high spot right there, you can see.
Yeah.
Okay? And then as I come back down over here, I got a high spot right there, which we kind of expect because we did that transition and that blending, right? So rather than using sandpaper for that, let's address that high spot right now.
So why did you switch to doing circular? Just because it's that one spot you know of? Or-
Yeah, and I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just trying to blend the whole area.
Gotcha.
And once I want to blend the whole thing lengthwise, then I'll start going long.
But when you have a specific high spot.
But I got a high spot right here, so it's easier to kind of just focus in on that high spot
And then blend it out.
and then blend it out. Yep. I can see it right here.
It really is like, it's not so scary, but it is more of an art than.
Yeah, I mean,
steps.
I think you do kind of have a little bit of an eye for straight lines and you know,
Yeah.
being able to see the dips and stuff, but it's really not that difficult though. It's not
Yeah.
something that, you know, is so elusive that we make it out to be, you know.
Oh yeah.
Now when
for
I'm
sure.
sanding this, okay, go back to the 80, I've got this volute and I'm just gonna sand right up to it because I don't want to roll over it and wash out that defined line right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna sand it right to that line.
That's the nice thing about the sponge that you can
Yeah.
kind of like keep it in there.
Yep, has some flex and some give. Okay, now that I've got this 80 on here, and I'm not sanded enough to I haven't done enough of it to get rid of all my scratches yet, so I've got quite a bit to do still. But now run your hands on that and feel the difference.
Wow.
Okay, and now this is where you go in here and feel where the highs and lows are, okay? So tell me if you feel anything that needs to be removed.
I mean, it still seems like there's
something going on here. Yep,
Yeah,
that's fine.
more
We can
up.
get that. What I'm feeling here, right in here, and let me put a pencil mark on it so you can see what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But right in here, this is what I'm feeling,
Oh, I see what you mean.
and you
There's
can
like-
feel kind of like it comes to a.
Because it's,
It's
like,
not perfectly
it
round.
comes out almost from here.
Yeah, it's like a
More.
flat and then like almost a point, right?
Yeah.
And so now I can know that that's there, and I can kind of address it, and just a few passes with the 80 grit, and that'll go away. And so that's where the feel comes in. There's a little bit right here, you know. So I'm gonna do a close-up. Again, this neck is not finished. We've got quite a bit of work left to do on it because, well, we got to take the thickness down here.
Yeah.
I will also come through and sand everything all the way around the head plate, clean up the binding area. We'll clean it up to the binding here on the heel cap. So we got quite a bit left to do, but you don't need to go through all the boring stuff with us. So I'll show you kind of where we're at, and then we'll probably take a video and show the final neck after
Heck
it's
yeah.
done. Okay. So in this amount of time, this is kind of what we've gotten to. And again, it still needs quite a bit of work, but it's closer. Okay.
Looks good.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments.